Okay, so we're going to learn how to take a regular loaf of bread and give it a braided top. And when I say braid, I mean it will actually look as if somebody French braided the bread's top part. To do this, I'm using a standard bread dough. It's about 2 cups of liquid, 2 tablespoons of butter, as much flour as needed to make a nice elastic dough. So usually somewhere around 4.5 cups, give or take a little bit. And I put all of that in my trusty stand mixer and let the mixer do the work until the bread is ready to go. Then I put it in a glass bowl that had been buttered and let it rise for about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the weather, in my lovely microwave. And during that time, I got my workspace ready. You will need a rolling pin and just a plain old butter knife. And I buttered my lovely bread pan here. So the first thing you want to do is punch down the bread dough. And then you're going to take that bread dough and give it a little bit of a knead. And after you're done kneading it, you want to measure out the appropriate amount. Now, what I have in my hands here makes 2 loaves, but I am actually going to make cinnamon rolls with one and a loaf of bread with the other. So I actually need to divide it unevenly. And to do that, I just kind of pinch off the chunk that I'll need for the cinnamon rolls, and that leaves me with the chunk that I'll need for the bread. So the first thing you want to do is take your bread dough and kind of knead it into an approximate rectangle. And that's just because it makes it easier to roll it out in a rectangular shape, which is what I'm going to do right now with my rolling pin. And here it doesn't really matter how thick you make the bread. There we go. What matters more is the length. You want to have a longer length than your loaf pan, okay? So your next step, after you've rolled it out, is to take your butter knife, and you want to make the same number of cuts on either side. 3, 4, 5, 6. Usually I get in about 6 or 7 cuts, which gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 braiding pieces. And you want to do it at approximately the same place on the other side of the loaf. There we go. And then all you have to do is take up the 2 pieces and take the first one. Doesn't matter which side you start on. I tend to start with the left side. You want to take the left piece and cross it over on the loaf towards the right side, and then you take the right piece and you cross it over like that. And as you do this, you can see that you start to get something that looks as if you braided it. Now the last 2 pieces you actually want to take and pinch down so that they stay. Now you have 2 choices here. You actually don't need to put this in a loaf pan. You can put it on a cookie sheet, let it rise for the usual amount of time, and then you will have a very nice long baguette style, well, not baguette style to be too big for baguette style, but a very nice long loaf. I sometimes do this and cut it diagonally, or you can cut it crossways if you like. Sometimes it's nice to give as a gift. But it gives you a basic idea. Now if you're going to do this in a loaf pan, here's my trusty loaf pan, you want to actually fold the ends under and kind of squish it down into the pan so it looks like that. And we'll come back when this is risen, which will take us about a half hour to 45 minutes. So now my bread has risen, and you can see it's got a very pretty braid going across the top. I usually bake this in an oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes, and then to make sure that the crust stays nice, shiny, and soft, I like to take a paper towel coated with butter and just dab it across the top. So we'll come back and take yet another look at this lovely loaf of bread when it has baked. Okay, so here we are with our loaf straight out of the oven. I've already rubbed some butter on it to make it nice and shiny and pretty looking. And if you did a good job of buttering your pan, you should be able to turn it out immediately. And there you go. You have a lovely loaf of bread that has a hollow sound when you tap it. And it's got a pretty top.